It is 6:31, and I'm calling to order the Public Health District Number 4 King County Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Thursday, February 8th, 2018, and it is 6:31. And the first thing on the agenda is the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have David Spicer here on phone?
He will call.
Phone's here, and
You know how to push the button.
Okay. With the clerk, do the roll call, please. President Norris? Here. Vice President Byrne?
Here?
Secretary Spiders? Yes. Commissioner Young?
Here.
Commissioner Hall?
here. Did you say Commissioner Spikers would be calling in?
Yes, sir. That's the goal. I guess next is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No.
I think we have a
Oh, privilege agenda. Yeah, okay. Do I have a motion for,
I move to approve the agenda.
do I hear a second? Second?
Second.
Is there any discussion about the agenda?
I'd just like to say that I can't vote for the agenda as written because I believe there are some errors in the executive session. First of all, the error of notice, the citation for section F there is incomplete, and it should have included the second sentence, which is the way it's written in our bylaws. That's one thing. The other thing is that this does not follow Robert's Rules of Order, and we are obliged to follow Robert's Rules of Order, whether we like it or not, in all meetings of the board. And so I think it does not comport with Section 63 of Robert's Rules of Order. So I'm going to vote against it for those reasons.
Could you read the Robert's rules that you are referring to, Commissioner Pollard?
It's about 20 pages long. I think that we can refer that to the attorney.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the Section 63. We're not following Section 63 of Robert's Rules of Order as required in this case.
Let me first address executive session as identified in the agenda. It says pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 F. That is a statutory executive session allowed and provided for governing bodies. And the full phrase from the statute says to receive and evaluate complaints or charges brought against a public official or employee. That is the first sentence. Second sentence is, however, upon the request of such officer or employee, a public hearing or a meeting open to the public shall be conducted upon such complaint or charge. So that first sentence is correct. That's the statutory provision as to why that executive session could occur, Madam President. So I believe that it is appropriate, that it is verbatim, except for the last part where it says public hearing or meeting open to the public. I read that. So officer employee is correct. That is the purpose, and you correctly identified that in your agenda. The objection as to section 63, I've not researched or reviewed that as to why you could not have an executive session.
Do we happen to have, did you say it was in our bylaws, Commissioner Pollard?
What's in our, yes, and as a matter of fact, the full statement, it is statutorily based, but if you look on page 6, item E of our bylaws, that's one sentence all the way, and it should have been included that way.
So under your bylaws for executive session, section 5, it has the same language to receive and evaluate complaints. Making sure it's the same.
Change it.
Or
Yeah.
charges brought against a
Charges.
public officer or employee.
However.
Exactly the same. And then it goes on to say, however,
Yeah, that's
upon
part
the
of the
request
same
of such
sentence.
officer or employee, a public hearing or a meeting open to the public shall be conducted upon such complaint or charge. So, the executive session publicly announce when we get to that point, you go into an executive session, and you can do so under these. So, Madam Chair, if with the board's indulgence, you can modify your agenda, and we want to move to modify to include that additional sentence that Commissioner Pollard has brought up. That is that additional sentence that says, however, upon the request of such officer or employee, a public hearing or meeting open to the public shall be conducted upon some complaints or charge.
That's fine with me. Is there somebody that would like to include the public part of that? Commissioner Pollard, would you like to include?
Well, I just say that it wasn't cited properly in the notice, so there's a defect in notice. And I think one thing I'd point out is that in the bylaws, it's one sentence.
In the bylaws, it is one sentence. It is not two sentences. That is correct.
And the state usually allows local jurisdiction to have bylaws that could be stricter than the state statute. So at any rate, I think what you're suggesting, and I would agree with it, is just add that full statement from the bylaws as of our agenda.
To the agenda.
So, yeah, I have a question. If there is a defect, how do you resolve that? How do you correct it, other than stating it, or do we
No, you're amending
follow?
the agenda.
Okay.
So you're amending the agenda, so you would move that the agenda be approved as amended.
Okay.
There is, at least for consideration, it has not been moved yet, that there would be an amendment consistent with what
It has been moved.
Pollard has been done.
I'm moving
Second,
that we
yeah.
amend the agenda to
Use that full
include,
sentence.
to use the full sentence.
Yeah, you want to read it?
Somebody want to
Right
read
here.
that so that we make sure we do this properly?
To receive and evaluate complaints or charges brought against the public
Make
officer.
sure you speak into the microphone.
To receive and evaluate complaints or charges brought against a public officer or employer, however, upon
Employee.
request of such officer or employee, a public hearing or meeting open to the public shall be conducted upon complaint or charge, such complaint or charge.
I think the question was raised by Commissioner Herron, about what about the notice aspect, that this notice has that defect that went out to the public and also to the commissioners. And I think we can live with that, but I think in the future, the notice we should make sure that
Can you
notice is
second it?
complete.
I would agree with Mr. Pollard on that, Commissioner Pollard, that we might want to have more consensus.
Yeah.
I think that your amendment, we've reached issue and correction.
Okay, so do I,
Okay, I'll second it.
and I would, okay, go ahead and second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposing. I would recommend to our committee that are going to work on our bylaws, that they would take that.
We're working on it.
It's in there.
Yeah. Thank you. All righty.
It's in there.
Now we've approved the agenda.
It's not the-
We didn't just approve the agenda, we approved the amended wording.
Okay,
Is that
good.
correct?
That's correct.
Right, so we need to,
So we need to approve the
Now
bylaw.
you need to.
You do approve the agenda.
Oh, okay, the discussion, I presume, is still going on. Well, I just want to, again, raise the issue about section 63 of the, that's on page 654, of the Robert's Rules of Order, and they specify how this sort of question should be dealt with. And we haven't dealt with it according to Robert's Rules of Order, so that's why I'm going to vote against the agenda.
I didn't bring her up, just accept this. So if you can, you're looking at,
Yeah, we're about 20 pages.
what page number?
Starts on page 954.
954.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, 654.
So 654 is section 63, investigation and trial provision. And it talks about the removal of an officer for cause or the discipline of a member for improper conduct. They require the charges to be deferred, formal trial held. All procedures in such cases described in this section. So at this point, there are no charges being deferred. and no formal trial. So at this point, this would not apply until such time as there is under 61 and 62 section, which goes back to removal from office and other remedies, and section 61, which goes back to disciplinary procedures. So it deals with discipline of members and guests, and I did bring this portion. In most societies, it's understood that members are required to be of honorable character and reputation. Certain types of association may have particular codes of ethics to enforce. It goes on to say then that no one should be allowed to remain a member whose intention is to do this kind of harm. This would pertain to expulsion of members. So this cannot apply because you can't, as a body, you can't expel fellow board members. You don't have authority.
No, there's no authority on that.
And at this point, this is an executive session to hear the complaint, not to do disciplinary measures at this point. So I don't think at this point, Commissioner Pollard, these provisions would apply. If the board moves forward with a disciplinary procedure of sorts, then we would need to go back and look at these provisions. And specifically, I think you said section 60, is that right?
Yes, and I'm looking especially at the second or the third phrase there, or the discipline of a member for improper conduct.
And again, what page?
That's again on 654, section
61, full procedure.
It says here investigation and trial, and you're correct about what you just said. However, it is open to interpretation whether the executive session itself is a disciplining of a member for improper or improper conduct.
So I guess then you might want to renew that concern if there is discipline action that takes place in an executive session.
Well, I think just the holding of an executive session in this particular case is a disciplinary.
Yes, it is.
Well, at any rate, that's fine. I'm going to vote against the agenda as written, and I can submit a letter.
Pursuant to the RCW, which, as you know, supersedes Robert's Rules of Order, this body may then go into executive session to review a complaint. That's what we're doing.
Now, isn't it true that while the state statute does allow for this, Robert's Rules of Order still apply and supersede the way this will be done because that's in our bylaws, and that's also allowed.
Bylaws do apply, but the state statute supersedes Robert's Rules of Order. State statutes,
The highest.
are required to comply with. You can't have and invoke Robert's Rules of Order that would be in difference to or in disagreement with the statute.
But they could enforce and be stronger than the
To
statute.
provide additional information.
All right, but at any rate, I can submit a letter as to my concerns, but I'm going to vote against the agenda for that reason.
Understood.
Okay. Are there any other changes or edits to the agenda? Not hearing any. We ready to vote?
Public comment?
Any other comments? Do you have a comment, Commissioner?
No.
Okay, then let's vote. All those in favor? No, I thought we had not voted because he brought up a question and an objection to the agenda.
The vote was on an amendment,
Oh, okay.
so this is now the vote on the agenda as amended. Is that correct?
That is correct.
As amended or for the total agenda?
It's for the total agenda,
Okay,
but,
thank you.
so what amendment did we make?
This executive
Go
session.
ahead, Steve.
You amended the executive session language,
Just the language.
and that was adopted as an amendment. Now you're voting on the
Okay, thanks. All right, all those in favor of the agenda now as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
All right, next is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
For the record, Scott Woodruff, I live in West Seattle, or Executive Director across the foundation, and certainly host for the forum. I just noticed that we're 10, 15 minutes into the meeting, and there really hasn't been a lot done. If we all think back, we can see that there are a few years in which there's a lot of frustration on this board and in the public because it seems to get a lot done and seem to focus on either things that was trivial or not important. So I'm really proud of the board commission recently because we've been embarking on some really important work, and it looks like they're making progress. So just encourage you to take a deep breath and accept what is important and stay away from things that might be conversational or might not be all that important at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, we will move on. I guess I'm first for communications, and I want to share with the board that Emma and I went to Olympia to hear House Bill
HB 1811, which is on affiliations, partnerships, and MAs, mergers and acquisitions.
Ben was there arguing for us. There were several people arguing against this bill, but the bill was in Ways and Means, and it did pass. So it's still
It did not pass. It's still in the committee.
yeah, it's still in committee, but
It hasn't passed.
hasn't passed committee. I thought there was a vote at the time in the committee.
It was just the first hearing of the bill.
Okay, but it hasn't passed. They haven't passed it in session. It's still in committee.
And it's not, I'm sorry, it's not Ways and Means, it's the Judiciary Committee.
She's right, judiciary.
Point of information, could you summarize the bill that?
It has to do with affiliations. It has to do with anything that goes into affiliations coming before the AG's office, Attorney General's office. So the Attorney General will review any mergers, any takeovers, or anything that happens that changes how and the business part of like if we were to do Asteria, it would go, all our paperwork and everything would
Here,
go.
I can summarize it. I have it here. It's an act relating to notice of material changes to the operations or governance structure of a healthcare provider or provider organization, adding a new chapter to Title 19 RCW and prescribing penalties. So that's the summary.
That's the summary.
Otherwise, there's a lot of them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Helps me understand what we're talking about.
It does.
And it talks about acquisition. It defines what acquisition is, what carrier is, just to kind of what contracting affiliation is, what healthcare professionals are, healthcare service contractor, what hospital means. It's defined as a hospital in RCW 70.41020. It also includes psychiatric hospital, hospital system, parent corporation, governance, net patient, provider organization, a person. It defines what a person. As you know, you're very familiar, most of you are familiar with HB or its House bill and Senate bills, and so it really breaks it down to, to all those statutory definitions. So that's pretty much what it is.
That's great. I wonder if before I leave here tonight, could I get a copy?
Sure,
of that?
I'd be happy
If
to.
you don't have it online.
It is on
Well, the bill is
Just put the
online.
number 1811. It will give you
But it
the.
won't give me all this that you.
I'm-
Yes, it will. If you click on it.
I
it'll
looked
bring-
at that, but
Oh, you
it doesn't
did?
give me.
Okay,
all
I'll
of
make you a copy. That's okay. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Emma? We both had a great time. We learned stuff. They were in caucus most of the time while we were there, but there was a vote on that committee after presentation.
There were several bills that were passed on the chamber.
Yeah.
So both parties have to
That's what caucus
vote. Yeah, so that's what, there's several of them that they have to put on the board, and it shows who voted yea or nay. So that's pretty much but this particular bill has not been taken out of its committee.
And Jay Rodney is on this committee, just so that those of you that know, Jay Rodney is our representative. Okay. That's really all I have, and I think that's it. So, Superintendent Parker.
You have my updated packets, which I will go through as I usually do. For affiliation strategy, the update tonight on affiliation is on our agenda, and it will be provided by President Norris, who serves on our affiliation negotiation team. Moving on then to finances, the financial report will show that in December, there was net income of $60,000 compared to our budget net income of $88,000. Year-to-date net income is at $127,000 compared to a budget of $294,000. Unrestricted cash declined in December to $7.6 million. And Steve will report on that related to our accounts receivable. Please note that these are unaudited results, and they may change depending upon the cost report. And we go through this every year. We have a cost report that's done, and it may change the results, mostly based on the reserves and whether or not we have the reserves accurately estimated. Average daily census in December was 23.9 compared to the budget of 22. That's an occupancy rate of 96%. The year finished with an average daily census of 22.6. The emergency department visits in December were 361. That's 9% above budget. The year finished with ED visits 1% over budget, 3920, and that's the first time in a number of years where the ED has exceeded budget, even though it was a very small variance. Our operating expenses were essentially on budget for December. I put in the packet they were 0.01% over budget, $13,000 over budget, and we finished the year 3% under budget, $942,000 under budget. January, usually do a preview before the numbers come to finance committee, but we just talk about them and we know them. January inpatient volumes were lower than December with an average daily census of 23.2, 93%. That's still very strong. And our average ED visits in January were 11.8 compared to our budget of 10.7. Employee satisfaction, culture of patient safety survey. Our 2018 survey to all of our employees will go out this month. This survey provides management with information on how employees perceive their experience working at the hospital, hospital and clinics, and the degree to which they and their peers work together and individually to improve patient safety and quality care. With respect to customer experience, I've recently established automated alerts for Google and Yelp ratings, along with online responses that I will post that direct reviewers on how to contact us to resolve issues that they have identified. I've also engaged our management team in this process. They are aware that if there are complaints online, that we will encourage them to contact us, and we'll put them directly in contact with the department head in the respective area of their concern. I would like to read a letter related to customer experience. Received late last month to Snoqualmie Valley Hospital staff, MDs, nurses, CNAs, clerical staff, PTs, OTs, speech therapists, rec therapists, social work, fiction, and cleaning staff. Thank you so much for the excellent care you gave to my husband. You are very caring and totally professional, so kind and patient staff. I have the greatest respect for your cheerfulness, helpfulness, understanding, and compassion. Thank you for making his last rehab hospitalization as pleasant as possible.
Is the name of the person available?
It is. But I didn't want to read it publicly.
I was wondering if that's protected by privacy, but since you read the letter, you should know the person who signed it.
I prefer to keep it. Well, actually, I did ask her permission to post the letter on our website, and she just called me yesterday, so her name is Margaret Shea.
Thank you.
Moving on. interpretation services, there was a recent story regarding a settlement that Astrea Health reached with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the U.S. Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division concerning the provision of tactile interpretation services for a deaf and blind patient. I wanted everybody here to know that here at Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, we use contracted with Stratus Video for language interpretation, and if needed, the Hearing, Speech, and Deaf Center will be contacted for any tactile interpretation. It's very rare, but that's, so I want you to rest assured that we're covered in that area. I wanted to talk about IV solutions because they are in the news. The hospital is not experiencing a shortage of IV solutions, and this is due to our long-standing relationship with Baxter. The hospital currently has 6 months worth of IV solutions in inventory. 340B drug program, we anticipate our go live on April 1 as planned. Also, our rural health clinic status, we expect to be approved and start that status on May 1. King County Search and Rescue, site work begins this month on this campus for the housing of King County Search and Rescue vehicles and supplies. And lastly, for this month's work study session, I've contacted WISHA for them to provide us with a legislative update. We'll also have a presentation from Dr. Wickup on what's called antimicrobial stewardship. And this is a growing it's not only the right thing to do, but it's now becoming the regulatory thing to do. And a Joint Commission adopted the rules around this. CMS are now mirroring those requirements, and you'll see antimicrobial stewardship showing up in our conditions of participation. And we've been at it for some time, and we're very compliant, and Dr. Wilczek will explain what that all means and how we're complying with both requirements.
Are there any questions for our CEO?
When you say tactile interpretation services, do you mean Braille?
No, great question. What that is, and Daryl, I'm going to have you put your hands up like this. So for anybody who is
deaf and blind,
the interpreter and the deaf and blind person talk to each other this way.
Oh.
And, believe me, I don't know how it works, but I just know it's hand to hand.
Wow. Could we also have a Braille where they can just go like that? No?
Tactile interpretation is the preferred method.
Oh, no. Oh, is that right? Oh, okay.
And actually, it's, I think, I have a daughter that interprets, it's like this, so the hand is flat, and they can spell out things for their, in their.
I've never seen it happen, so I see a lot more people utilizing the Braille system. That's right.
This is a rare.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Pollard?
With respect to the employee satisfaction and culture of patient safety survey, who did that? I presume we consulted for that.
We have questions in our survey that we have developed and have used consistently year after year. We also take into account areas of inquiry that Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services have. One of the challenges of any survey is understanding, did you get better or did you get worse? And what we've done with our survey is we have made it consistent year after year. The other challenge with surveys is that when you do a 5-point scale or a 10-point scale, it's hard to interpret sometimes what people really, why did they? And so our survey actually uses a lot of open-ended questions for people to talk about their impressions and how they feel about working here and how they feel about quality here. Now, there's a lot more work involved in those kinds of surveys, but we go through every single one. We categorize the responses so that we understand why people rate us the way that they do. Our employees rate us the way they do.
So this is our own product, not a consultant's.
That's correct.
And that's based on our prior experience, which may have been with a consultant or with consultants.
Looking at other surveys and
looking at other surveys. Will the board get to see the results
as part of our quarterly quality report?
Okay, good. And On the customer experience, I'm still not clear. Does this mean that department heads can reply to YouTube or whoever?
Great question.
Because other hospitals, when they get a complaint, they actually try to address the complaint in the written reply, because it's not only that patient who needs an answer, but other people are reading that complaint. So
Right.
we need to publicly respond and not just say, call us if you have a problem.
So the first response is to call us, because we want to make sure that we have a conversation with people and really understand the issue before we post to either Google or Yelp what the resolution is.
But then we will post.
And we will post. So the first thing we do is we do give them the standard. If you take a look, I did look at other hospitals. Evergreen, for example, has a standard response on who to call and it's their patient advocate. In our case, they will call Val, and Val will direct them to the department head to contact. And then once that follow-up has been done, then we will do a follow-up online.
Okay, good. That sounds like a good plan. I have one other question, and that is, we see so much on TV these days about flu. I believe the state of Washington now has sustained about 160 deaths from the flu. And I just think the hospital ought to be engaged in providing information, at least to the board. Where do we stand? What's our situation on the flu in this hospital district?
There's a report that you'll hear tonight in medical.
Okay, very good. And similarly, opioid abuse, they say it's causing more deaths than car accidents, and I'd like to know where we stand on opioid abuse, and maybe even what is our program for drug testing our employees and commissioners for that matter.
We could bring that forward in a work study.
I think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Too, I know there are a lot of other organizations in the Valley that are working on drug and alcohol abuse, particularly with the youth. Snoqualmie Valley Community Network is really involved. They're involved at the school levels, and the city of Snoqualmie, I believe, has a safe place for kids that are on the street, also that they can intervene with drug and alcohol as well as giving them a place to stay.
And Mr. Parker, you did a good job of getting the Valley Record and Living Snoqualmie to put in articles about the flu. Maybe next year we can get them just a little earlier. But they did respond, and a good job on that. Thank you, Madam President.
Moving on, Skip, I guess you're next. Do you have any information you'd like to share with the board?
So this is your rules, reminders, and some information. Topic this evening, as you will note, is length and number of speeches. It's a little bit lengthy. I guess no pun intended as to the length of speeches tonight. I'll not exceed my 5 minutes that we've set aside. This can be found under Chapter 12, Section 43, and it talks about the maximum time for each speech. A non-legislative body, you are a legislative body, so you're somewhat limited there, or an organization has no special rule. You are an organization that does not have a special rule. And so again, to the Bylaws Committee, you may want to consider this and adopt a rule. Relate to the length of speeches. A member, having obtained the floor while a debatable motion is immediately pending, can speak no longer than 10 minutes unless he obtains the consent of the assembly. Robert's Rules applies usually to larger assemblies, but even for this board, your assembly would be the board. Such permission can be given by unanimous consent or by means of a motion to extend the limits of debate, which requires a 2/3 vote without debate. So you could agree to allow the speaker to continue by a 2/3 vote. So when a member's time is exhausted, the chair will rise, not necessary in a small group like this, and if the member does not immediately conclude his remarks, call attention to the fact by an appropriate signal or by interrupting him if necessary. When you get to your 10 minutes, it would be the president, the chair, or the chair may appoint a timekeeper to provide assistance in fulfilling this responsibility. And I've done that for other boards and organizations where they'll say allow 10 minutes, and then when you get close to that 10 minutes, I will remind them you have another 30 seconds, please wrap do that. Normally in smaller boards like this, it's not necessary. If it appears that a minute more will afford sufficient time for the member to conclude more gracefully, the chair can ask unanimous consent to extend the member's time for a short period, or any member can do so. So, and it's a grace kind of thing. It's what I call a plea of grace. I'll wrap up in another 30 seconds per minute. And that's pretty common. Now, interesting that it's clear in Robert's Rules that you can't transfer your rights in regard to debate. So you can't say, I yield, or I give my 5 minutes or 10 minutes to another commissioner. That person has a maximum time for each speech, and you can't yield. Unless the organization has a special rule on the subject, the member cannot yield. Now, again, if your bylaw says a commissioner can yield, you can go ahead and yield now. If a speaker yields to another member for a question, the time consumed by the question is also charged to the speaker. So if somebody has a question and they interrupt your 10 minutes, that's going to count as part of your 10 minutes. So you might not want to yield to the question. A committee chairman or reporting member is not considered to be debating when presenting or reading their committee's reports. So when you prepare your reports tonight, Commissioner Young, Commissioner Pollard, that does not count towards your 10 minutes, and that's not a debatable motion. That's not before the body. So there's no 10-minute time period on that. And any speech in support of the motion offered on behalf of the committee, it then would apply. So if then you're done with the committee report, you make a motion, and you start debating the motion from the committee. Number of speeches on the same question per member per day, unless the assembly has a special rule, and again, you refer to your bylaws, providing otherwise, no member can speak more than twice to the same question on the same day, except in the case of an appeal. Only the presiding officer can speak twice, the second time at the close of the debate, all other members being limited to one speech. Merely asking a question or clarification, brief suggestion is not counted as speaking in debate, nor is it making a secondary motion counted. So again, what they're trying to do is be efficient and effective in Robert's Rules of Order and limiting the amount. And under this rule, each debatable motion is a separate question with respect to that member's rights to debate. So each time you have another debatable motion, you don't have to go back and think, gee, did I use my 10 minutes up? Because each time you start over, the clock starts over, you'll have another 10 minutes. So with that, that's your Robert's Rules reminder in terms of your maximum time for each speech and the number of speeches on the same question, the same motion per day. But again, it reruns on each particular motion. Questions, comments, Mr. Fox?
That's very fine. I think it's good we're giving our attention to this. I thought my recollection was that the 10-minute rule said, would say something like, however, in smaller assemblies, it can be longer than that. Something like that, but I just tried to look it up, and I don't see that.
I don't see it either, but I know that other parliamentarians have discussed that in smaller groups that can be relaxed.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't need to be enforced. It really depends on your time constraints. If you've got a large agenda, you may want to enforce it if there's no need to. And it really is the discretion of the president. The president, if she's not keeping time and she doesn't appoint a timekeeper, she can allow it to go for some period of time. So I think you're right. There probably is a lot of colloquial kind of approach that says, we're not going to hold you for 10 minutes unless we've got a time constraint.
You stated this would be better on bylaws.
Well,
I would think it would be better on the rules and procedures.
Right. Well, Commissioner Herron is lifting the curtain up a little bit on what we're doing in our bylaws committee. We met this evening. We're talking about maybe we should have a set of rules how we operate the commission meeting. Take those out of the bylaws and then have a separate bylaws. And so Commissioner Herron is already reflecting on, well, maybe that rule goes somewhere else. Well, we're not there yet. We just have one set of bylaws, and the new bylaws, it talks you the order of your meeting, everything from flag salute to going through the agenda. We're going to be back to you, Commissioner Young and Commissioner Herron are going to get back to you about requests to assist the committee in the bylaw review.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I know many organizations, I can specifically refer to the city of Snoqualmie. They have bylaws and then they have rules of procedure. The advantage of the rules of procedure is those can be changed by motion, whereas bylaws need to be changed by resolution. And so they're very thick.
Sounds like you were sitting in on part of our meeting today. That's exactly what we covered.
But I have been studying looking at other examples of how other organizations do this.
What you're subcommittee is doing, your ad hoc subcommittee. And interestingly enough, we have a city of Snoqualmie council member in the room, and we talked to him about his experience using that as well. So everybody's coming together to create a little more energy around that issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Next on the agenda, consent agenda. We have a consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'm not going to make a motion for a couple of reasons. One is the approval of warrants. We haven't heard the finance report. There is no physician credentialing to happen tonight, so.
Then we don't need to do that. We need to, so we won't do a consent agenda, we'll just do each item separate?
Yeah.
Okay. So first on the, I need approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from January 11th, 2018 and January 24th, 2018 with study?
I make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes for January 11th, 2018 and January 24th, 2018 work study, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Unanimous vote. Now we have approval of the warrants and payroll taxes. We're going to move that down to finance.
Why don't we deal with that separately? Why does it have to be included in the finance committee report?
Well, because it's part of finance, and it's finance committee that really brings it to the board. If you want to do it right now, we can go ahead and do it right now.
No, if you prefer that it be part of the finance committee, it used to be with the approval of that particular thing, the warrants and so forth, it was under new business. Then it got locked into the finance committee as an action item. I don't know what's best, but if you prefer to have that as part of the finance committee as an action item in the finance committee, that's okay with me. I mean,
I think I agree that it should be connected with the finance committee.
All right, and that's what we will do. We will do it with finance. So we're moving approval of warrants down to finance committee. Any other changes to this? Hearing none, then we will vote with the exception of moving the warrants down to. Yes, you have something you want to say?
approve the minutes, right?
Yes.
And so there's nothing else to approve because there's no exemptions.
Yeah.
But we do need to approve the warrants and the payroll, so we're just going to move that down to finance.
Do we need to approve position credentialing?
No,
There
there
isn't
I
any.
think so.
there's
No,
no.
there aren't
That's just a
any.
report, isn't it?
There isn't any, there are no positions, there was no medical executive committee in January.
All right, so we just strike that.
That's correct. We
All
can
right.
take that off the agenda.
Got it.
All right. So the first committee report is going to be the finance committee, and that's going to be me. And Commissioner Spikers is not here. Can you help me out, Steve?
Yeah.
I think,
Got it.
I think Darrell has a report. Okay.
I just wanted to make some comments, which are all in the notes here. Profit and loss month is $60,487. That's a change in that position. The year-to-date district has a profit change of net assets of $157,473. Probably one of the most important things that I think on here, one of the things that whenever we're talking about how much money is or isn't there, it has to do with one, medication, patient days. Medicare was 607 and Medicaid was 31. And the other thing is our AR, accounts receivable. Accounts receivable days have been from 53 to 60. So that means we're paying all our bills, but we're not getting paid for our patient care. So that makes it takes longer, and then we don't have as much cash available. Restricted cash decreases due to the LPGO principal and interest payments. So those to me are the things that I think are most important for the board to hear. Operating expenses are unfavorable. $12,000
Oh, yeah.
unfavorable to plan. It's above budget for the month, which is essentially at budget for the year, which is $942,189. Oh, Steve, if you want to make any other comments about Steve's minutes.
Covered the fact that we had a traffic close for the monthly meeting. The accounts receivable going up was the result of a busy month in December. And what happened is, we pay our bills in 30 days, but it takes us 55 days to collect our bills because of the payment cycle of Medicare and insurance companies. And when you have that type of thing, it also affects cash, because you have a busy month, because you pay your bill before you go to money in your cash, your unrestricted cash. You mentioned also that we do debt payments, which reduce restricted cash. One of the, what I call your attention to positive, so I'll certainly leave it there, but our year-to-date, our operating expenses were $942,000 below budget. That's almost $1 million.
So we've done an awesome job.
We have. And,
Yeah.
and it's not, it is our staff, and all of our managers and all of our staff.
I do have, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the actual versus the budget,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to know the variances. What are those variances between the actual and the budget? It looks like there's such a huge difference.
We will always have the individual items.
Yeah, the ones that are all in the red, the variances, they seems to, I don't know, I'm a little confused. What is that?
Because
I'd like explanation for the variances.
complicated business.
Yes.
When you have 100,000 more patient visits, patient interactions, and you don't know what type you're going to have, it varies. You're always going to have variances within the individual accounts. I have never been in an organization that doesn't have variances. So what's important to look at is your bottom line on your expenses, because that's what we manage to. That's the operating expenses bottom line. If you look at that, you will see that we were able to operate with a positive variance, lower expenses of $942,000, which is really close to $1 million. And that's how we manage. We will, throughout the year, say, okay, we need to spend here. Well, that means we need to adjust here so we can manage to that bottom line. It's like if you're at home and your heater breaks. Yeah, you got to do that. But maybe that means you spend less on your vacation. That kind of thing. You're always managing to that bottom line. So that's how we look at it. It's a lot like you do at home when
Yeah.
you know, the car breaks and you say, well,
You have to adjust.
Trip to the Bahamas.
You have to adjust.
You
Yeah.
have to adjust.
Yeah.
You have to adjust. And that's
Okay.
what we spend a lot of time
Thank
talking
you.
to our managers about and the staff.
All right. Thank you.
Are there any other,
And it's a group effort.
do you want to go on? Steve, do you have any other comments to make?
I wanted to look a little, 2 slides on productivity. And you look at that. You said, okay, how are we doing efficiency? So this is an operating expense per adjusted patient day. And an adjusted patient day is a statistic that is used in healthcare. You say, okay, let's take inpatient and outpatient reading and get total amount of adjusted patient days. So the adjustment is by the amount of activity that it takes to provide that service. It's a standard way of measuring productivity and activity in healthcare. But you can see in 2014, our operating expense per adjusted patient day was $24.72. 2015 it went to $24.11. 2016 it went to $23.63. In 2017 it went to $2300. So we have become more efficient in providing healthcare services. And so I had another question. So I did another slide. okay, let's look at the change, and it's gone down each year. 2015, it went down 2.47% from the prior year. 2016, it went down 1.99%, 2%. In 2017, it went down 2.67%. At the same time, inflation was positive. So overall costs were going up. Stuff we were buying was costing more. Yet because of the benchmarking and the activities that we've done, we were able to, even in a rising cost environment, decrease our cost per service. So that is good. And again, that's the effort of all of our staff and all of our management. Thank you. Very good. And as Tom said, the results are unaudited, and we have the cost report prepared, and that cost report will be done in May, and that's always you see what it is, because the only way you'll get a final number is having the cost report done. And the cost report prepared with things that you have them finalized.
Could you go back to operating expenses justification A slide? Okay, now, my understanding is for full cost reimbursement, would this be the number that we would bill Medicare for? I thought it was costing us about $3,300 a day for medication.
That is the inpatient.
Yeah.
This is not based on inpatient. In this case, inpatient, outpatient,
Okay.
clinics, melds them together and gives you a statistic. So it's a different, and it's a prescribed formula used in healthcare.
Very good. Now, is the approximate cost for each patient in our swing bed about $3,300, or what is the
I
cost?
could not answer that off the top of my head. It's doing pretty in-depth analysis, which I can't do in.
So that's very important. That's
But
what we bill
that
Medicare.
this would indicate that our costs in that unit, which is our biggest unit, are going down. So I'm 87.4% sure that those costs are going down.
Is there any other questions?
That's a nice presentation,
Yeah.
Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you very much.
All right, then we will move on to medical committee.
Are we gonna vote on the warrant?
Oh, warrants, that's right, we did do it at the beginning. I guess I would ask that there be a motion to go through the warrants.
I make a motion
I'll
to.
second it.
Is there any further discussion about the warrants?
Well, wouldn't this be part of the report from the Finance Committee, which I presume you're going to give?
Sure, you did.
I
Yeah,
did.
She did it.
She did.
That was it?
That was it.
So I gave a report.
And was
Steve gave a
echoed by
report.
Steve.
Mr. Spiker's talks a lot longer.
Well, I thought we had it pretty narrowed down.
Okay, all right.
If you want me to talk longer, I can read the
No,
report.
but on the agenda, or I don't see it exactly on the agenda, but the superintendent mentioned that you'd be giving us a report on the
Affiliation.
affiliation
That's on the old
process.
business.
At
That's
what
down
point on
under
the
old-
agenda is that?
Old business.
Old business.
Okay,
After the facilities.
all right, thank you.
Okay. All righty, so, where are we?
We're gonna vote.
Vote. The warrants. All those in favor, well, I need a motion.
I already did.
We already
you get
did it.
that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay.
Medical.
All righty, next we're moving on to medical committee.
All righty. We had a very productive meeting.
It looks like it. You know?
Received an update on the current influenza and influenza-like illness statistics at state and local level. You can't hear me?
No.
Now you can hear me. I'm sorry, I got to be God in Bible school, so I've been working on it all along. Okay, we have an update on the current influenza and influenza-like illness statistics at state and local level. Included a discussion of the spike pattern that is currently falling. It's going dramatically down. And the likelihood of a second spike in coming weeks. Also the importance of timely immunization. October is recommended for the start date. The process for vaccine development and the concept of herd immunity. We're going to now be having formal comprehensive vendor evaluations. Are going to replace the previously informal vendor and evaluation processes. And as Tom Parker said, employee performance evaluation season is January, February. Also, the culture of patient safety and employee satisfaction survey will be distributed to staff soon. We'll receive in this committee after analysis complete, probably in April. We also reviewed the CAUTI data. CAUTI is catheter-associated urinary tract infection, and current work in place for rate reduction. Moving on down, DOH cardiac and stroke recertification will be due in March. Requires submission of a new application, updated review of our processes, and presentation of our quality measures, which are excellent. In the lab, the new molecular testing platforms went live in the hospital last week, so it's almost 2 weeks ago, and clinics yesterday, which is a week ago also. Okay. We're trialing night staffing of CT and X-ray. Information on hand suggests this will be a valuable staffing change from staff being on call to staff. The trial will confirm and reveal other unpredictable efficiencies, etc. New NIOSH guidelines for safe drug handling guidelines have been released, will result in several process changes in our pharmacy and nursing work overflows. Work group established to plan and implement these changes smoothly and clearly. Okay, I'm going to skip the IV solutions because we heard that from Mr. Parker. Also, in the clinics, the Friends of Youth bilateral embedding collaborative practice planning is ongoing with the goal of launch at the start of Q2, which will be April. We'll locate one of our clinic providers in their North End office and one of their behavioral health clinicians in our clinic several hours a week. This is a highly supported initiative by the Washington Healthcare Authority. The beneficiaries of this are the vulnerable youth in our communities, consistent with our strategic plan initiative to introduce services that address the needs of our community as revealed in community needs assessment. For example, youth depression and suicide. Also good news, evening appointments at hospital clinic Monday through Friday, fully implemented January 1st, slowly growing in popularity. Medical staff delegated payers credentialing, engaging with the collaborative to be recognized by payers to do credentialing of providers on their behalf. Once this is in place, it will expedite our onboarding process for a new provider, which is often delayed by the payer credentialing step. Insurance will not pay until credentialing is accomplished. Okay. Annual review of committee charter approved to be included in our packet for commissioners to review in preparation for an agenda item at March board meeting for approval. Request made to include a legislative update in an upcoming work session. And our next meeting, we're going to do an overview of hospital policies and procedures, documentation management processes, review most recent DOH hospital and pharmacy survey, review employee performance evaluation templates and processes, and also vote on the charter.
The other, I think, Commissioner Pollard, you have a question about flu sites. Okay, correct me, Dr. Whitcomb. In the state, the number of flu deaths or fatality is 132. King County is 19, correct? Yeah. So they're just wanting
130, you say?
132 throughout the state. Yeah. And just the King County alone, we have 19 flu that died.
Do we have a number for our hospital district? Is there any death from our people in our hospital district?
Nothing. Zero. I did ask it on that. Yeah. Okay, just to give you that update, because I asked it earlier today. Yeah, thank you.
And I'm just going to say, the charter for the committee. We are the only committee producing a charter.
No, we do that.
Sorry to interrupt. Facilities also.
We do have
Oh, facilities,
too,
okay,
yes.
well,
Yeah, we're
We
looking
do
at it,
have
but,
one.
is this your proposed
Yes.
charter changes?
Yes.
And so,
it's our
well, you're
proposed
ahead of
charter.
us.
Well, yay.
Yeah, you're ahead of us. We're going to discuss it later this month.
Yeah.
I did have a question about the trailing night staffing. I'm just not real clear. Are we
Trailing.
talking about whether we should have people on call versus here
We are trialing having them on premises
on premise?
versus on call.
Okay. And how long is this trailing going to go on
Trailing,
before we come up with a recommendation?
yeah.
Yeah, we'll look at that over the next 12 weeks.
Mhm.
But we feel like we got to a point where we had enough, what's called callback, where we have staff on call and call them in. And they come in, so there's a cost associated with that call back. And then you're also paying probably a low amount, which is on call, and transition call back to somebody here. Provide service much faster, so that's, we'll be looking at that.
So there's a monitoring system to make sure that that's going on, to track down all the calls? Yeah.
Well, it's just part of our schedule, we know who's on call.
Oh,
And we
okay.
know how often they come back in, and we
Oh,
look
I
at that and say, you know what, it's probably more beneficial to just have somebody here.
And too, if you're on call, you can be anywhere, so it may take you longer to get here because you may be doing something farther away than if you were closer by. I mean, I've done on call.
So do we pay transportation for on-call people?
No, you pay them though hourly for having the pager. As long as they have it, then they're paid.
Is it a pager or is it a telephone?
Well, it's usually, it
like a
depends.
call,
It
like a,
depends. For us, it was a pager and then we called.
right, but there's something that,
Yeah, oh, no.
Do most on-call people qualify for overtime when they do come?
It depends on what their regular schedule is like.
And it rotates.
Pardon?
It rotates, on-call rotates.
Yeah,
up
I
and down.
don't fully understand that system, but it sounds like you have it in control. I do have a question about the evening appointments at the hospital clinic. What do we have in the hospital clinic that's not available in the Ridge clinic, and vice versa?
I'm going to defer to Dr. Wickham on that. I think I know the answer, but we'll say it much faster.
The hospital clinic, by nature of being located in the hospital, has access to the laboratory as well as the imaging department. So, whereas in the Ridge clinic, if laboratory tests are needing to be done, or definitely in the X-ray setting, they have to come to the hospital to do that. We have a few laboratory tests that are available at the Ridge clinic, but the whole spectrum of laboratory tests are available here in the hospital. So that's the distinct difference between the two. Our specialists are also located in the hospital clinic. They are not part of the evening hours, but that is the other difference.
Yeah, well, people are familiar with the Ridge clinic, but I don't think people are as familiar with the hospital having a clinic in terms of public knowledge. And I was wondering if maybe we ought to do a little more community education on the hospital clinic.
We're working on that right now, to feature, especially around our services around geriatrics with the hospital clinic. We do mention both clinics in all of our advertising and promotions on clinics. And the hospital clinic is pretty busy. They're both busy clinics, but the hospital clinic has really gotten more busy in the last year.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Any other questions? All right. Moving right along, then we're at the affiliation negotiation.
no, facilities.
Oh, facilities. Commissioner Pollard.
Yes, well, we've got 2.5 pages, actually 3 when you count the people who are meeting here. So please pick up a copy, and I hope you've read it already. We're doing the same thing that the Finance or rather the medical committee is doing, which is we're looking at our bylaws, what our role is in the governance, and also our charter. One of the things I think we may be, and we're going to be bringing that back to our committee meeting this month, one of the things I think that we might want to look at as an addition to our responsibilities is something we've been doing, which is looking at transportation and traffic. That's not currently in the bylaws for our committee, and so we want to do that. There's a lot of material here. I think to cut it to, I don't think people are too interested in the Echo Lakes lawsuit update. Do you? But I do think that people are interested in traffic safety. And Tom has been doing an excellent job relating to the city of Snoqualmie, which, you know, they have control over traffic issues inside the city limits. And we're doing our best to ensure the safety of people who come and leave our hospital and also find their way here through signage and so forth. So Tom, as a member of our committee, would you like to discuss traffic safety?
Can I clarify something you just said, Commissioner Parker, or Commissioner Pollard? Some streets in the city, if they're a highway, a state highway, then it's the state's responsibility, not the city's responsibility. So, for instance, like in Issaquah, you have SR 900. That's the state's responsibility. It's not the city's responsibility. So just because the road is in the city doesn't mean that the city has responsibility for all the roads. Just those roads that are city's roads, not
just inside the city limits.
No, even a state highway inside the city limits is the state is responsible for. There's a collective working effort usually, but it is ultimately the control belongs to the state if it's a highway.
So would we say the parkway is under state control?
Well, it certainly is at the intersections. No, this is not. This is not a state highway. It's a parkway.
Right.
But once it becomes 18, then it's no longer. If 18 were to go past the city limits and be called Highway 18, then in fact it would be the state that's responsible for it.
Yeah. And so just looking at the city limits of Snoqualmie, what other major thoroughfares would be under the state jurisdiction and not ours?
I don't know because I haven't done any kind of inventory. I know that I'm not sure if the road from Snoqualmie down to the falls to 202 might. Yeah, 202 would be a state highway.
Right, very good. But that doesn't involve us.
No.
Thank you very much. I know you're an expert in that area.
Not an expert.
Tom, would you like to say something further about the traffic safety?
Sure. As I've reported before, I did meet with folks at the city, and we had a good brainstorming session on a number of items. I've been encouraged by my contacts there to just keep inquiring where they stand on coming back to us on some proposed resolution, some ideas. That list of ideas include one that we've talked about for a while, and that is rumble strict grooves in the parkway, which would help to encourage traffic to slow down and keep the speed limit there. A sign there that is they're called radar. I don't know, or I call them radar signs because they tell motorists how fast they're going. A low-cost, almost temporary version of a street light, of a semaphore there. And then the last one would be increased patrolling by city officers. And so I continue to pester the city on that, and hopefully soon I'll have a report back for the facilities committee. Those are the interventions that we're hoping we'll see bear fruit. Long term, the development of the two parcels to the east of us would also produce some help in that when they do develop on those parcels, there will need to be a traffic control device somewhere along the parkway. Most likely, as it was explained to me by the city, it wouldn't be at 99th, the access street for us here. It would be a little bit farther north on the parkway, probably a street that they would call 96th, because the space between the two parcels is a natural place for an access road. In fact, if you take a look at our small roundabout on site, there is a stub for that roundabout that is designed to go out to the parkway. And the plan would be for that road out to the parkway to be controlled by a light on the parkway.
Very good. Okay, we're doing interesting things with signage. You know, we used to have a chapel, and we thought of doing it the way the United Nations does it, which is a meditation room. Well, that's now transitioned into a quiet room. And Tom has been doing an immense job of getting new signs to help our people get around the building. And Tom, you want to say something briefly about this big sign project that's coming up?
Sure. Thank you for letting me talk about one of my favorite topics.
We were kidding that Tom is a compulsive sign addict, and he really holds a high standard for the way these signs got to
I'm
look.
just looking out in the audience, some of the staff notice also. So let me go back over, when we were, and Dr. Wickup and I worked a lot on the design and the flow of the hospital, and when we were doing that, and working with Jim Grafton on this,
And Jim Scussel, don't forget, he helped us with this.
well, this is pre-Jim Scussel. This is back when we were.
Oh, you're talking about old history.
Back when we were planning the hospital, you think you get it all right, and then you come in and you live in the facility for a while, and you realize that there are some things that you need. And so this is really what we're responding to. And I'll just note that we actually had a committee that lasted for almost 2 years. It was probably about 20 months. And it was we called it New Hospital Solutions. And this was a group of the executive team, folks from Scott Mahavik from Facilities, Bryce from IT, Rachel Weber from Nursing, Jesse Wade from Materials. And we worked for almost 2 years on just solving issues that any of us would probably experience when we moved into a new house. It's just not fun. And we knocked off, if I remember right, over 150 projects in that time of just things that we had to address. Well, this is one more of those kinds of things. And what we noticed is that wayfinding in the hospital could be improved on the first floor with some additional signs. We want to make sure that they fit with the look and feel of our signs currently, and we're accomplishing that. Working with the agency that worked on our original sign, 2Art, for example, when you come into the hospital, there will be a wayfinding sign right there on that big pole that helps you. Then there's going to be signs over registration. There's going to be a really important sign over that little hallway down to the ED that tells people that's where the public restroom is. And other signs that go down the other hallway down to the clinic to help people know that medical imaging is down there, the clinic is down there, and then another one which is our East-West conference rooms upstairs. A lot of times the public are coming in for use of those rooms and having some clear signage over that soffit that leads to that. What looks like a back hallway, which really feels accomplishment. So we put a sign package together. We originally spec'd it with some metal lettering on a lot of those signs. We've redone that. Our costs are coming down on that package, and we'll review that in the facilities committee next.
Yeah, I was shocked at what those metal signs cost. You've been working on that, and you're going to come up with alternatives to that. So that's a good job. Okay, continuing right on. Again, pick up your full report from the back table. I would like to say that we still have hospital rooms available for community groups, And we have about 7 or 8 community groups using the hospital. We want to encourage community groups, nonprofits, and scouts, and so forth to come and use our hospital. So any of you that have contacts with those groups, let them know that the hospital is available free of charge. Just schedule with us.
I do have a little bit of news on that.
Uh-oh.
No, it's good news.
Oh, good.
Encompass, a lot of people know,
Yeah.
has decided that they're going to hold the board meetings here.
Fine.
And they held the first meeting here, what day was that? On the 5th. So we will be the regular site in this room for the Encompass board meetings.
That's news to me. Thank you so much.
I know we're going to report it in the committee, but I felt since you were talking about it, it'd be nice to mention it.
Yeah, that's good. You get the news to the people as
Any
quickly
news?
as possible.
Any news on the gift shop? Because I know that it hasn't been open for so many weeks or.
Yes, our employee is back as of today.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If there are no other questions, Madam President, that concludes my report.
No, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
It says there was a discussion at the gift shop. There is concern and expressed that the appearance of the gift shop is, when it's closed, looks like a funeral home. I don't know that it looks like a funeral home, but it certainly looks odd with all that stuff. They hang, with all those curtains around different items, and
It's being worked at now.
it isn't very, it just looks odd and.
It does look odd, but I must say that the drapery that's on the items, it's as good as you can do. It's nice looking, but it is still
And you
drapery
said
on the
something about
product.
closing the area with a glass enclosure door would be most likely very expensive. A glass enclosure area would probably, regardless of expense, would look nice too,
Yeah.
because you could see that what's in there, even if it's not being manned.
Well, yes, and we discussed this, and
Yeah.
I believe
Quite
Commissioner
hefty.
Herron is very much
Very
in favor of
expensive.
the glass
Yeah.
approach. One advantage of the glass approach, even though it be very expensive, is you can do window shopping. Jewelry stores, they couldn't stay in business without sparkly rings in their window.
Well,
So,
I would assume it wouldn't even be glass, it would probably be some kind of a plexiglass.
Plexiglass.
Yeah. Okay.
so we're looking into that further, and we'll discuss that at this month's meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Any other questions? We'll move on. Next, we have old business, and that's the affiliation, and I will give a quick report. The team from our team did meet this 2 weeks ago. David and Sarah and Steve and Tom and I can't remember, but we met. The team continues to work on a possible transaction structure for the affiliation of Asteria Health, and it's based on research into proposed structures and legal review of workable models. So we've been studying and looking at a variety of models for what would work best for us. Both the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital and Asteria have negotiating teams are continuously optimistic about the model they are proposing, provided a path forward. The compromise model, there's some questions about, but there's a lot of discussion about whether it will work or not. And we think right now that it might work. And that's with some information from Public Health Department. Snoqualmie Valley Hospital and Asteria are working with a brokerage firm that issued the hospital's bonds, Piper Jeffrey, to determine bondholder involvement and estimate timeline and assistance for the bondholder communication. That's a major issue that we need to look at. Okay, so next.
So let me question. So
Yes.
it is just the legal team meeting with the negotiating team. There is no LOI that has been processed, correct?
No,
Okay.
there's not. There
Okay.
has not.
Just want to clarify.
Yeah, no, there's no LOI.
Is
And
there a
I'm-
projected date for the LOI?
There is not at this time. We're still in pretty preliminary. I think some of those things are premature.
So when?
Yeah.
So how much? What time frame are we looking at? Or what phase are we at this point where the concern is, where we are continually, we have to look at our consultants, professional fees. And the longer we wait, the longer the money is going to dry up. So I'm concerned. So I remember when they first gave us the initial phasing bid, that there was a graph that said that at this, level 6, I'm just making this up, I can't remember now, but that where we are going to be at that time. My concern is we only have one RFP, and it's taking us almost, $65,000 on the, whole. And my understanding that there was a $200,000 on the budget that was entered for 2018 that we have voted on for the consultants. Now, how did this happen? Which I wasn't aware that it was snuck in there.
No, it's not snuck in there.
Oh.
When we put together a budget, we want to anticipate potential costs, but they're not costs that are specific to any new contracts. But we would be kicking ourselves later if we needed to get more help from consultants or especially legal services for the affiliation, and we had not put any money aside in our budget. So we put money aside in the budget, but we have no new contract. And with respect to the Hedner and Cave contract, their costs are consistent with the phasing approach that they projected. We're currently now in the due diligence phase of that agreement, and so we're consistent with where they projected that we would be in terms of the kind of work that they are doing.
Okay, I guess for the sake of fiscal responsibility, I would call, if we, which is at this point might be mute because we are on that level where we are now in the negotiation. In the future, if this doesn't fare well, if we were to start looking for more potential suitors besides just one, could we not do an RFP right away rather than interview those, maybe if we have 10 people out there that were interested, and so out of those 10 there might be 5 that might be really interested, and then maybe that's when we sit down and, so instead of hiring a consultant, I think it would be the CEO, the executive staff, maybe the board should also be part of that process to go and network and outreach, spread out our wings and fly so we can see what's out there, and then decide, okay, so and so, we have 5 people that are really interested. Let's see what we can do. I mean, this is just the future that I'm kind of espousing right now because I see that there's so much waste of time, really. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I wanted to hear. Thank you. So a couple things. One is that we, as you may recall, we did say that we wanted to get resolution of the deal structure issues with Astria by, we said, 4 to 6 weeks. So we're still on that timeline, and we're trying to get the work done as quickly as possible to really get to a decision point. Does this look like we have the ability to go forward? So we're moving as quickly as we can. Secondly, Commissioner Herron, I think it's I'll just offer my opinion. I think it's a recognition. Your idea is a recognition of all the work that was done to produce the RFP. That's still highly valuable. We would not want to start over by any means. The things that the district has, that commissioners identified as important to us, still hold true today. And we would not want to go out with a whole new RFP process. We've already done that. And so the concept of talking with people about people organizations who have expressed some interest but decided not to propose, and find out what was it about the RFP that was the hurdle we couldn't get past. But I would just say, we are in good faith working with Astrea to get to that point where we know whether or not we are able to move forward, and that was that 4 to 6 week time frame. So we're looking at end of this month and the first week of March to be able to say, does it still look like there's
Possibility? Okay.
And I want to address that too, because we're using Brad Bird part-time, and I tell you, Skip has been helping us a lot, and there have been times when we haven't used Brad because we've had counsel that's reasonable and is being pretty mindful of the costs. And some of it is just a matter of getting information, and that's taken a long time, getting information from Astrea and knowing what's redacted and what's not redacted. So I think our last meeting was how long and what are we spending and where are we, was a major part of the discussion that we had. And we've also, a number of us have gone out and asked some of those people why they were or weren't interested in us. So that is something we as a committee have been concerned about and wondering about. So that's still, there's still some open doors in at least some of us.
So when is the next negotiating meeting?
Val's working on that as we speak.
Okay.
But I expect that we talked about it earlier this week, and it really depends on when Commissioner Strikers is back. So
You can try it for a while.
yeah, but it will likely be after next week that our negotiation is.
Mr. Pollard.
I share Commissioner Herron's concern about the costs, because when they made their proposal, that is, Kay approved it, they said that the most that you would spend on us as consultants would be $70,000. And then in addition to that would be another $70,000 for the legal part of the process, as I understand. You have
If the additional part was not legal, it was the due diligence phase, where they're diving into the guts of the
Agreements.
agreements and
Proposals.
And the profile of the proposed affiliate organization. And that's what we're doing right now. It wasn't an additional 75. I'd have to go back and take a look, but it's more into 25.
Well, I recall, and I think I have the records where they said 70,000, and then the balance is for all of the legal aspects, and that may be the due diligence you're talking about.
Right.
Okay.
It seems, yeah.
So we understand that. But the thing that also concerns me is that if you look at the history of mergers and acquisitions in Western Washington, none of them have been as a result of an RFP. I believe I'm correct in that. They have been done through personal contacts, and that's why I voted against this as an RFP at the beginning, because I felt that we should go out and make our personal contacts with these other organizations as a first step, and then perhaps turn in consultants. But if you look at the history of mergers in Western Washington, they haven't been from an RFP. A top hospital looks at an RFP, and the attitude is, that's what you use for buying toilet paper. Why didn't they come and speak to us? That's the feedback that I got. So I'm just very concerned about the costs and the process, and I join with Commissioner Herron worrying about things like that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion? I think that the team is trying to work pretty hard. I think we're trying to be diligent about the finances. I think we're trying to take our time and not make mistakes. And we're having a hard time getting some of the information.
Yeah, that's my question. What is the holdup with Astrea? Why are they not? We really need to do, and we're doing our due diligence. They really need to come up with, soon, not 3 months, 4 months from now. What is the holdup?
It's not a holdup of anybody not motivated and not doing. is really understanding the proposed model. It's a complex model. And
You have all these lawyers there, you all these legal minds, and still.
And the latest bit of work that we did was getting the attorneys from Austria and sit in one meeting, albeit it was brief, with Brad Bird, talking about how the proposed model affected the corporate structure, and most particularly the covenants under our revenue bond. And that is what we're dealing with now, and that is understanding what bondholder requirements would be under this model.
I just hope that we're not dragging our feet here for another.
No.
Yeah.
Not. And I will just tell you that the complexity of the issues is hot in this case. This is not a simple transaction.
And I can tell you,
It would not be.
David and I are getting tired of it dragging too, but we have to jump through certain hoops. That's just all there is to it. And we have to get their financials.
One of the things that I mentioned to Mr. Parker is that why can't the rest of the board submit be involved? We want to hear it primarily. I don't want to hear secondary stuff. And the three of us are not included in this. So what we're getting is secondary information. Primary is important for all of us to hear what's taking place here. Come on, we are the commissioners. We need to know what's the deal here. But it comes to us secondary. So I don't know what's going on.
My only comment is if we had our whole board at all the meetings, they would take a big longer amount of time.
It is taking longer without that anyway, so it doesn't matter. Either way.
Yeah, and they'd have to be public also.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd have
Oh,
to,
boy.
they would be public, yeah.
You win some, you lose some,
Well said, Ella.
Okay.
Okay.
We can move on, sorry.
No, that's all right. I think that's what you're here for. So that's okay. All right. We are now, where are we at?
Public comment.
Public comment, thank you. Do we have any public comment? I was wondering when you were going to get up, Carol. That's all right. Come on up.
Calm down.
I think you know who I am. Phil Peterson, downtown Chicago. Been here 60 years. My comment, that's the last issue is the one I want to talk about. I am concerned about this Astria group. I read the RFP, I read everything that's put out with their response. I saw all the black marks, the redacted, financials not available. I haven't looked in the last month or so I don't know if there's new things. But I have to admit, first of all, I didn't understand a heck of a lot of it because so much of it, my daughter works at Microsoft. And she comes home and she says, I call it home, it's not her home, my home. She comes and she'll tell me about this paragraph they've discussed at their meeting. And I can't understand a word of it. It's corporatese, corporate leave, how do you say it? Corporate, yeah. And it's the same thing with the hospital. I read the RFP and I read what they've responded, and half the things that we were asking for or more and what they're saying, I don't even know what they are. It's gobbledygook to me, and I'm probably been a little more involved than most people. And I tried to talk to other people around the community about this Astria thing and what's happening, and nobody knows anything about it. They don't know anything that's going on. Sorry, Evans, but I know. There's been a few articles, and I cut them out and save them and reread them and do all of that. But if somebody like me doesn't know what's going on, I'm really worried about where we're maybe headed. So what I'd like to do is just suggest a couple of things. When you get to a letter of intent, that to me is almost a no going back. Once you get to a letter of intent, that means you're intending to do something with this other group, and you kind of cut off all other sources, if there are other sources. So first of all, I hope you can do something, Evans and Carol, and I can talk to Carol again too, Carol Ladwig, the editor, pretty good friend of mine. And
that we can do something if it's beyond the Valley record. I don't know what it would be, maybe door-to-door flyers, like the school district does for their election. I mean, there's other things that can be done to alert the public to what might be happening with this hospital district. And it would mean that I think there should be a public meeting. Maybe 10 people is all that would show up, but I think it needs to be done. This transparency with a big issue like this is just nowhere out there in the community. And I think partly it's because it is taking, like Emma was saying, you know, it is dragging on, and I understand the complications and needing lots of attorneys and all that kind of thing. But I just have never heard, even with talking with some of you individually and other people involved, staff, whatever, that there's ever been a real push with Evergreen Hospital. I know what we did with Overlake. Yeah, I know they wanted all the revenue and none of the expenses. None of the debt, right. But Evergreen is a public hospital district. They've just taken on Monroe. I just think there needs to be more outreach to Evergreen Hospital, whether it's to other commissioners, like maybe Emma and Jean or Joan, going to see some of their commissioners. It doesn't have to be, quote, an official committee that's negotiating the other things. Just testing the waters, talking to their CEO or their board of commissioners, whoever, just seeing what they may or may not be interested in. An RFP is good, but it isn't the only way to communicate with others. And I just really think that that effort needs to be made before we get to a letter of intent. I think we need to have more, if not public input, at least public notification. And I'd be happy to work with some of you, and I've been here a long time and know probably most of the marketing that's gone on in the Valley forever. And there are ways to reach out to the public. And I know Evan's doing what he can in the paper, but honest to goodness, I go around the community, especially on Thursday afternoons and throughout the week. Everybody's newspaper still laying in their driveways. I mean, not everybody, but you know what I mean. There really is not, and all the people I talked to up on the Ridge especially, they don't read the Valley Rec because they don't know any of the people in the Valley, unless their kids are in the sports section. They tell me that all the time. That's the favorite part of the paper. But in terms of what needs to be said publicly, transparency is really, to me, a very high priority. And before you get to that letter of intent, we need lots more information, because I'm really scared to death of this Astria. I really am. I just cannot see at this point, and maybe you can't either at this point, what it is going to do to the voters of Hospital District 4. Okay? Thank you. Yes. Oh.
Well, some very good points were made there. I think that the RFP process is a good enough process. It has the opportunity for getting perfectly good results. So there are 2-3 different ways that you could proceed, and you chose to go with the RFP process. And as I understand it, in this context, there are 3 steps. The first one is you've identified what you want, and I think you're pretty clear on that at a high level. Where you are right now is you're just getting the structure that you're negotiating. It's not really content. It's not really. It's just how the 2 sides are going to face off against, not against, maybe with each other to discuss it. And then the third part will be the nuts and the bolts. What will you really negotiate for in terms of the affiliation? And I've mentioned my preference in the past. I won't repeat it here. So I don't see any red flags. I think that the process is on. I'm impatient too, but we've promised that something will come up within the next month and a half, and then we'll actually start seeing some real progress. I might suggest that you reach out to a dozen or 15 health and human service organizations throughout the community and invite them personally to some meeting, to some forum, where once you have something, go ahead and explain it to them. And if you invite them and you say you might be stakeholders and this is what's in it for you, then you might be able to appropriate the reach and the authority and the influence that they have in the community, their network,
to support what you've negotiated. It might be that, and I've suggested this in the past, that the Valley Record and Living Snoqualmie might be the entity that would host such a meeting. And then you'd be appropriating and working in their network, and they have trust, they have authority, they have influence throughout the valley. And in my mind, that would be a shortcut to be able to involve the greater community for the greater good. So I'm really looking forward to the next meeting that you have, and I suspect that you'll have more to report back at that time. Thank you.
And we will move on to other. And now we have an executive session.
And the other, did you call for other?
I did call for others.
Okay, I would like to ask our attorney, how does he envision other? As I understand it, we have a council member here. I hope I don't misspeak, but my understanding is the other is our version of the committee of the whole. The city of Snoqualmie has committee of the whole at the end of the meeting, and the Evergreen Hospital has that sort of thing, other committee of the whole. And as I understand it, it's any council member who wishes to speak for the good of the order can briefly speak, maybe make suggestions about the next agenda or the next work session or whatever. That's how I understand the committee of the whole or other. And how do you understand it, Mr. Attorney? Because there was a little confusion, I think, at meeting before last on that issue.
Right. Other is not defined. And that's, I think, unfortunate in an agenda because it does allow confusion as to should it be committee of the whole, should it be good of the order, should it be other. So my suggestion is typically to identify what the other is. If there's something that's not on the agenda, you would identify it under other and say, I have another item, and then the board would determine whether or not that other is going to be heard at this board meeting or at a future board meeting, should it be continued and set over for another meeting. So I would normally suggest when you adopt your agenda is to identify, is there anything that needs to go under other, and then when you get to it, you get to it. Otherwise, there's no direction for the board. When you get to other, your president doesn't know who to call upon other than good of the order is probably equivalent to what other is.
Because if you know what the other is in preparing the agenda, it's not other, it's an agenda item.
No, it would be added as an agenda item under other when you get here. Come to the meeting, and she's asked for approval of the agenda, and you say, Madam President, under other, I'd like you to add the current weather, or whatever it might be.
Could you just have the good of the order at the end of the meeting? I think that's the way the city does it.
Could have good of the order, and then it would simply be commissioner comment.
Yeah, and that could be brief, but at least that could be.
Right. But again, my caution is, if you allow that, it might not be brief, and it might go on, and there's no direction for the rest of the board as to what you're going to cover under other.
Yeah, that could be controlled. And as a matter of fact, since you're on the bylaws committee, our effort, maybe that should be discussed, and we might want to look at how other hospitals and the city does that.
Yes, indeed. We're working on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. I understand we do have a council person, Fred Snoqualmie. I don't know you, and I didn't even know you. So I apologize, and if you could come and tell us your name and what committee you sit on, that would be helpful to the board.
Sure. Those of you I met, hello, I'm Jim Mayfield. I am the Snoqualmie City Council liaison to you, to your board. And so you'll see me here at almost all of your board meetings. I'm here just to sort of be a liaison to the city council. So that's why I'm sitting here. So happy to be of assistance to you if I can in terms of liaison. And similarly, I try to let the city council, other city council members know what I'm observing happening here that might be of relevance to the city more broadly.
Now, do you have a committee, or do you sit on a committee?
I sit on two committees, the Finance and Administration Committee and the Community Development Committee.
Good to know. Any other questions for our
Welcome as the liaison from the city council.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we ought not to have a liaison from the hospital to the city. And I think maybe we should consider that.
That would be something to consider. Yeah. Thank you, Jim.
Well,
Appreciate you being here.
please let me know if I can do it.
Okay.
Would you also be able to, sometimes when you're here, update us on something that has something somewhat related to
Impact on us.
that impact us?
Yeah, I'm
That would
happy
be
to.
very helpful.
Sure, I'm happy to. Please let me know if there's anything that would be of interest. I think, you know, a lot of the things that you're doing, you're more appropriately interacting with the staff at the city. You heard a report earlier tonight on some of those interactions, and of course, I'm not in that level of detail, but staff would be. So I think you're getting a better report from your superintendent. But anything that I can help with respect to interacting with the city council, more than happy to report to you or report into you or give you information. So please just let me know. If there's anything I'm aware of, I will ask you if I can address it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, we are now ready to do an executive session pursuant to RCW 42.30110F, not sure the F is for, to receive and evaluate complaints and charges brought against a public officer or employee. So I would ask if the members of the public would leave so that we can have our executive session.
You need to identify, Madam President, how long your executive session is going to last.
Okay, so I'll read this as it should be read. Under RCW 42.30.110, the Board of Commissioners of Public Hospital District Number 4, King County, is authorized to go into executive session to receive and evaluate complaints or charges brought against a public officer or employee. Pursuant to this authority, the board will now go into executive session. It is anticipated that this executive session will be concluded in approximately 30 minutes, and no final action will be taken during this executive session.